under those conditions, made his own conditions and insisted that he would not leave unless the library was to leave with him. I would now like to call upon the chief librarian of the Agudas Chassidic Chabad Library, which is that very same library, Rabbi Shalom Levine, to say a few words regarding the Yom Tif of Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz.
8 years ago, this day, on the 12th day of Tammuz in 1927, the Rebbe Rayatz, was released from exile and permitted to come home. The Rebbe stayed in Russia another 3 months, and then he left Russia to Riga. 9 months later, on the 12th day of Tammuz, in 1928, when a year fulfilled since his release of exile, he wrote a letter to the Chassidim telling them, not only me, myself, was redeemed, it was the redemption of the whole entire Jewish nation. Why is that? Why does he write that his redemption is the redemption of the whole entire Jewish nation? Yes, he was a great man, a great spiritual leader, a Jewish leader. He was jailed. He was then exiled. He was then released and then left Russia. It's a great thing. But why is this considered in his eyes as the redemption of the whole entire Jewish nation? Rather to try to explain that, I would just give a little background to the situation there before the arrest and before the redemption. And maybe I should go back to the period of the Tsarist government, where Jews was not allowed to live in Russia freely. They were allowed to live only in several areas, cities, near the border. In those cities that the Jews lived all alone much earlier. It was still 100 years earlier when the Russian government, the army, confiscated part of Poland and turned it into be Russia. In that part of Poland, many Jews lived. The Russian government did not expel the Jews from that cities. They told them, you may stay here, but you are not allowed to go to any other city because the whole Russia is not allowed for Jewish people to live there. And that's how it was for many, many years. It was harsh for the Jews, but they lived it through. And that's how it was till the start of the First World War in 1914. When the war started, the Germans came in. They were on that cities of the border. That's when they where they started to the war in Russia. The Russian government got suspicious. The Jews don't like this government of Russia. They will spy for the Germans. They gave out the order. Within 24 hours, all Jews should leave these towns where the war is coming and go elsewhere into Russia, deep into Russia. cities where a Jew was never allowed to be there, places where there was no shuls, no mikvahs, no heders, nothing of Jewish life. It was hard for the Jews to come there. They couldn't build anything in the period of the war. They didn't have the means to do anything since they was expelled of their cities. And right after the war ended, started the civil war in Russia for several years, where in the end, the Bolsheviks, the communists, won the war and they got control of the whole country. And still in middle of the war, when they were still not fully in control, they already gave out decrees of nationalizing all real estate of the whole entire country. No person is allowed to have any house that belongs to him. Everything belongs from now on to the people's government. What does it mean for the Jews? All the synagogues, even in those places that the synagogue was not destroyed, it doesn't belong anymore to the Jews. It belongs to the people's government. So if there is 10 shuls in a large city, the people say that 5 is enough for the Jews and let's have theaters in the other 5. If there is a mikveh in the city, why should it belong to the Jews? It's now the property of people's government. So let's have there a public bath. And public doesn't need this mikveh, so they would break it down and destroy it. Chadorim? School is something that every child has to go to. You're not allowed to have your own schools. Sure, there is freedom of religion in this country. So therefore, a father is allowed to teach his religion to his child, but not open a school. What is considered a school? If you teach 3 children together, it's a school. Sure, the father is allowed to teach his son, but only 1 or 2, not 3 together. If he will teach 3 and he will be found, he will be jailed and exiled. So by the end of the war, of the Civil War, when the communists got the control of the city, of the country, shuls was confiscated. Mikvahs was taken away and broken. Chadorim wasn't allowed. The whole Jewish life was about to disappear. And what happened to the Rebbe in that period? In the middle of the war, the Rebbe of Chabad, the 5th Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab, with his whole family, including the 6th Rebbe, later became the Rebbe Rayatz. They fled Lubavitch to a city far in, deep in Russia, in Rostov. Civil war started, hunger, sickness, people died in the streets, and finally the Rebbe himself did not survive. He was buried in Rostov, and his only son, who became later the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe, became sick, very sick, till the doctors almost gave up hope for half a year. he was sick. The yeshiva of Lubavitch, there was a hunger. They didn't have a space. They didn't have food, and was about to fall. The Frierdiker Rebbe, when he was still sick, when he was just starting to recover, he just gave an order for all the bochum of the yeshiva to come quickly to Rostov and stay and learn in his house, in the courtyard. They built up a shalash, and that's where they learned. They slept wherever they could. There was no food. There was a hunger. But he tried to save at least the yeshiva to start with that. There was not enough money to give them food. But that's not the end of it. The government found out of this yeshiva. They came in. It was still in the end of the first year after the passing of his father, when he is just trying to build up Lubavitch from scratch. They came in, they arrested the teachers, the Rosh Yeshivas, the Mashpim. They sent away all the children. They told them, if you stay here one more day, you'll be arrested. And the yeshiva closed. And what happened with the Rebbe? They came into his house to punish him for opening the yeshiva. What was the punishment? They brought 4 trucks. They cleaned out all valuables in his house. They left him with bare walls. And that was his punishment. That's how the Frierdiker Rebbe was when he was about to just squeeze himself out from this depression and start a network of underground Jewish life in the whole Russia. All his pupils he sent. We know today what shluchim means, that the Rebbe sends a shliach in this city and in that city to open a Chabad house. But then it was in underground. Each shliach knew that he'll be found, he'll be jailed and exiled for many years. They all went, they sacrificed themselves, and each one went to where the Rebbe sent him, and started a whole network of hundreds of cities with building up secret underground shuls, minyanim, secret underground chadorim, and secret underground mikvahs. It went on for 2 years. He went for a meeting to Moscow. While he was in Moscow in 1924, the secret police got some knowledge of what's happening, and they came to his house to arrest him. He wasn't there. The secretary fled right away to Moscow and came to the Rebbe and told him, do not come back to Rostov. They are looking for you. They want to arrest you. It took a little while, couple of weeks, and the Rebbe turned around and went to Leningrad and settled there, rented a house and settled there to continue secretly the whole network of hundreds and hundreds of shluchim, bochrim and yungelait, building up Jewish life in hundreds of cities around Russia, till the secret government found out finally where the nerve of the whole system is. The Frierdiker Rebbe. They came to his house and they arrested him. by thinking that by getting rid of the nerve system of the whole underground, they'll be once and for all get rid of the whole Jewish life in the Russian country. They arrested him. They wanted to kill him. Great efforts of great people around the world forced the Russian government to free him and send him to exile. He was in jail for 19 days, and then he was sent to exile for 3 years. 10 years, then 3 years. He was in exile for 9 days, and then through intervention of great people around the world, they had to free him out of jail. The Rebbe knew that the minute he came out from jail, he was under constant surveillance. He didn't mind that, but he knew that he will not be able to carry on the secret underground connections with all his pupils that are around the country. After 3 months, he left Russia to Riga, where he continued to stay in contact with letters, secret letters, from different addresses to different addresses that only secretaries knew and only the leaders of this underground work in Russia knew. And when one was found to carry on Jewish build-up in a city and he was taken to jail, and the next day somebody else was sent there to carry on this work. And this work of sending shluchim to build up Yiddishkeit, every place around the world where there are Jewish people, did not stop then. It started then, and it's up and growing and getting greater and greater from year to year. As we all know today, there is no place around the world where there is no shliach that carries on to hold the fun of Yiddishkeit, to bring Eden closer to Yiddishkeit, to teach them about Yiddishkeit, to build shuls, chadorim, Jewish schools and mikvahs and everything that Jewish life needs. When a year fulfilled since the redemption of the Rebbe, he wrote a letter to all his followers and to the whole Jewish nation. You shall all know, a year ago today was not only my personal redemption, it was the redemption of the whole entire Jewish nation. The work will go on and will go from strength to strength, and this redemption will become greater and greater until we will reach the final redemption, the Geula Shleime through Mashiach Tzidkenu, very speedily.